Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is now in theaters. In fact, by the time you hear this, there's a chance that you will not be able to see it. I have seen this movie 2 months late. It is about to lose its theatrical run. It did not do well financially, but you know what? I decided that I wanted to see this movie in theaters. This was a movie that I have been anticipating for most of the year, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. My name is Ben Friedman, film critic and film reporter over at Highbrow Magazine, and today I am talking Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This film follows Harrison Ford, once again returning to his signature role as Indiana Jones. This film also includes new cast members, including Phoebe Waller-Bridge of Fleabag fame as his goddaughter, Mads Mikkelsen and Boyd Holbrook as the villains. We also have the additions of Ethan Isidore as a young adventurer named Teddy, and Antonio Banderas rounding out the cast. You've heard a lot about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at this point, and mostly that this film was mediocre. It premiered at cons to very mixed response. Comes out, bombs financially. This was a film that cost $300 to $350 million to make. Way too much for an Indiana Jones film. Does not make its money back. And now it's just kind of all the questions on Lucasfilms, LucasArts, the Kathleen Kennedy hate, whether James Mangold can direct, blah, 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 blah. There is so much controversy. There's been so much discourse on this film. I'm here to give it to you straight. I'm here to give you a review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The Dial of Destiny follows an older Indy wrestling with fitting into a world that has passed him by. But as the Nazis return, Indy must don his hat and grab his whip once more to make sure that an ancient and powerful artifact doesn't fall into the Nazis' hand. This is a classic Indiana Jones premise. And that is half of the problem and half of the great of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This is a throwback to the Indiana Jones films. This is a film that is really banking on your nostalgia of the Indiana Jones property. And that will work to great degrees, and it will also work in very bad degrees. And I think this film is a mixed bag of that both. There are moments where I think this film honors the past, and then there are also moments where I think this film stays far too much in the past and is unable to get out of its own way. Let's start with this first action set piece, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that I didn't enjoy, and it's really specifically in this first act. This movie starts with a long prologue of a young Indiana Jones de-age. Now, the de-aging technology is actually quite impressive on Harrison Ford. He does look like a 1940s Indiana Jones. The issue that I had with it is it sounds like Harrison Ford at the age of 80, and it kind of moves at the age of Harrison Ford at 80. So there's this really strong uncanny valley where you are looking at something that looks so technically impressive, and yet it just feels off. And while watching this action set piece I found just jarring. It's this one that is filmed on top of a train, and it really just feels like a video game. It's kind of set piece by set piece, room to room, sneaking around, doing all this. It really is paced like a traditional video game in a really negative way. It feels weightless. There just doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the action. The action in it is not dynamic. In fact, it's very stale, and that's one of my biggest issues throughout this film. It is a very long prologue scene that I just think could have been cut out, and it really just kind of started as a bummer for me. We then get to Indiana Jones in 1969, present-day New York, and this is where I thought the film was just crashing and burning. I felt like I was watching a once great band going on tour again and just not being able to recapture that magic. And I was just sitting there, and it felt more pathetic than good. And it just goes on. It's this New York scene. We're getting Indiana Jones retiring, and then we get the appearance of Phoebe Waller-Bridge in this movie as his goddaughter, who I actually liked in this film. I thought she added a lot of the charisma and was able to burden a lot of just Harrison Ford's age. The fact that she was able to just kind of take some of the big action set pieces from him, I think did benefit the movie. Well, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Harrison Ford have really good chemistry throughout. And we get this chase down in New York. I believe it's supposed to be New York. It is definitely supposed to be an American town. It's 1969, right when we landed on the moon. And it's this very prolonged chase. And again, The issue that I found with Indiana Jones is a lot of this movie is car chases, motorcycle chases, something that does not involve Indiana Jones slash Harrison Ford having to run a lot or be particularly physical. So having him behind the wheels allows the age to not feel as present. The issue is it also makes the action feel very repetitive. There is 4 to 5 action set pieces that are all behind the wheel, and it just doesn't work in any wonderful way. So I was getting really nervous about this, especially because we're introduced to Mads Mikkelsen and Boyd Holbrook. They both play Nazis in this movie, and I felt like Boyd Holbrook was just in a completely different cartoonish movie that did not work for this, and Mads Mikkelsen was sleeping his way through this role. He can play an evil Nazi scientist in his sleep, and that is how I found his performance to be in this entire film. So I was getting really nervous. Now, luckily, the second act of this film improves greatly, and then we get some great action set pieces. There's 2 in particular that I want to highlight. There's one that is set in Morocco, which really gets the globe-trotting feel of Indiana Jones, right? And there's this underwater scene, this deep diving scene that I really liked, and I think added to the atmospheric creepiness to this movie and kind of just gave me a little bit of a Temple of Doom vibe to this movie. So I'm slowly getting back on board for this movie. I'm liking the action set pieces. I think it takes time to get into its rhythm, but once it finds a rhythm, I'm enjoying what it is giving me. And it's not to say that it is particularly great, because I don't think this movie ever hits greatness. However, I am quite enjoying myself. It's a bit breezy. The pacing as well. It's a little bit too long in the second act, where there's just too many action set pieces that I'm like, okay, maybe they don't need to be in here. But the John Williams score is blaring. Harrison Ford is giving a really authentic performance as Indy, and I'm really buying into this movie. You get fun performances from guys like Antonio Banderas, who just jump into this movie for a little bit, and it adds just kind of this, bigger than life feel to it. It adds a little bit of a cartoonishness. There's good comedy here and there. And then we get to, I think, what is the moment of divide, which is the third act, which I'm not going to spoil anything in this movie. However, this film takes a big, bold chance in its third act. Now, some people are going to really dislike it, and some people are going to respond to it. I actually found myself to be someone who was responded to it. The chance that this movie takes is really big, and it is not going to work for everyone. But I will say that there is something extremely special about the magic that it captures here. There is a sense of just wonder and mystery and kind of just the best elements of Indiana Jones. Bigger, larger than life moments that I really think work to serve the Indiana Jones mythos. Now, it goes a little too big and it goes a little bit too ridiculous. However, what grounds this is Harrison Ford's performance. Harrison Ford's performance in the final 30 minutes of this film are absolutely incredible. They're some of the best work Harrison Ford has done in the 21st century. It's probably my favorite work that he has done, returning to a character that he's previously played, including films like Han Solo and Blade Runner. I just found what he did so engrossing, and I think that's what allows me to get past the movie's faults. This movie certainly has a lot of faults. The pacing of this movie is weird. The characteristics of this movie are just sometimes lacking. I found this film not to have much of a personality, which is too disappointing when James Mangold, a really talented director, has done films like Ford v Ferrari and Logan recently, to name a few. I think as a director stripping with style, it just kind of missed the magic of Spielberg and George Lucas. I wanted to have it in there, but ultimately when you get through it, when you get in the story, you're getting a good action adventure film. I wish it had a little bit more of that Indiana Jones magic and spirit. Maybe that's just impossible to recapture. What this film does give me, though, is a good send-off to Indiana Jones, a movie that I did enjoy, and scenes that I think are among the best in the franchise, also mixed with some scenes that I was really down on. So it is a mixed bag, but ultimately I can recommend Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'm giving this film 3 out of 5 stars here on the Beneverse. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching my review. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content. My name is Ben Friedman, here from the Beneverse Movie Channel. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and bye-bye.